Episode 247, Roots and Mycorrhiza. This is the Change Underground for the week ending the 8th of March 2021. I'm your host, John Moore. Decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. The relationship between roots and mycorrhiza go deep, pun intended. From the site Mycorrhizal Applications come on the page How It Works, link in the show notes. Quote, Mycorrhiza literally means fungus and root. It describes the mutually beneficial relationship between the plant and root fungus. These specialised fungi colonise plant roots in a symbiotic manner and extend far into the soil. Mycorrhizal fungal filaments in the soil are extremely extensive and truly extensions of root systems and are more efficient in nutrient and water absorption than the roots themselves. More than 95% of terrestrial plant species form a symbiotic relationship with these beneficial mycorrhiza fungi and have evolved this symbiotic relationship over the past several 100 million years. These fungi predate the evolution of terrestrial plants, and it was a partnership with this fungi that allowed plants to begin to colonise dry land and create life on Earth as we know it. End quote. What we have is a long-established, tried and tested natural system filtered through hundreds of millions of years of evolution. The collection of plant-available nutrients through this system is truly remarkable, but incredibly fragile and, strangely enough, robust at the same time. Robust in the sense that the mycorrhizal elements survive droughts, floods and fire to repopulate the soil spaces quickly. Fragile in the sense that two particular human activities destroy them. The first is our old friend tillage, or in the vernacular, digging. This action breaks the filaments, destroying the interconnections. The other more subtle method of destruction is artificial fertiliser. I say subtle because of the manner in which fertiliser destroys the system. Let's run a small thought experiment. A group of humans have to spend all day collecting their food from the fields. Grains need to be processed, vegetables need to be cooked, and meat requires slaughter, butchering and cooking. Now these humans return all the waste back from their system, maintaining fertility and exploiting photosynthesis to their heart's content. Along comes an unseen hand during the night, and huge amounts of fast food are delivered to the front door. No questions, no payment required, just free food. Not the same as they were eating, mind you, but close enough, and without having to do anything for it. What will happen? Well, I assume the educated and good-looking listeners to this podcast would choose to avoid the fast food. The majority of people, however, will take the free stuff, despite any longer-term consequences. When humans drop chemical fertilisers on the soil, they are in effect providing the fast food from our thought experiment. The plants take up the NPK directly without the need for accessing the mycorrhizal elements. Like the fast food, the longer-term effects are to create a barren soil. Barren of anything but crops, the fertiliser, and taking advantage of the free food, weeds. Other effects over time are also like the obesity epidemic. The crops may well shoot up quickly, but they do tend to be soft, for want of a better word. Delicious to insects who can pick out a weakness with their eyes shut. The type 2 diabetes and a diet of fast food? Okay, maybe I'm taking the analogy too far. In effect, the chemical fertilisers provide nutrients directly to the plant's roots, and the interconnection with mycorrhizal channels is not needed for the immediate short-term growth of the plant. The mechanism to accumulate suddenly available nutrients outside the mycorrhizal system kicks in. Eventually, it would appear the constant triggering of that mechanism severs the interconnection. On top of this, we added constant tillage to destroy whatever material may have been in the soil, and we find ourselves in the situation we have nowadays. This would seem to be a one-way street. Once the interconnection is broken and the tillage destruction added, then we might have been trapped into a constant reliance upon chemical fertilisers and chemical additives in general to make up for the loss of more natural systems. However, this is not the case. As many of us discovered during the lockdowns during the last 12 months around the world, The amount of yeast floating around in the atmosphere to kick off sourdough starter is much more than we would have imagined. I think the fact that these things are invisible has an impact on our thinking, and this applies to both sourdough and soil microbiota. As we noted in the quote previously, these mycorrhizal fungi predate the evolution of land-based plants. There is, it would appear, a huge reservoir of these available to restart the system whenever we humans wake up to ourselves. Given that plants colonised the land before animals, we can postulate a coevolution between the two as the animals spread out to explore and exploit available niches. What I'm getting to is this: the use of animal manures is a critical element in the kick-starting of mycorrhizal systems. The manures provide food not just for the plants but for the fungi as well. And as noted in the quote, the fungi are far more efficient at collecting nutrients than plant roots are. A case in point, our place divides nicely into 3 half-acre-ish units. The orchard, the soft fruit and some pasture all lie within the home half-acre. The next half-acre out from home is where we've been running the pigs, rotating them across the space, allowing the pastures to regrow. They have removed any trace of blackberry, and there was some there to be removed. They have manured and urinated in different places as they moved. The last half-acre sits beyond this pigged-over area. Now, planting broad beans into both areas has been illuminating. Where the land has been pigged, the beans leapt out of the ground, with deep, dark, rich green in colour, and are untouched by insects. Those planted in the non-pigged half-acre have struggled to grow. They are much lighter in green, have smaller stems and have struggled. They've also been attacked by insects. These I have slashed and allowed to rot into the soil and had peas planted through them. Again, a lack of vigour, but not quite so much. And even the buckwheat I followed the peas with is straggly and will be slashed. The one bed, about 50 metres by 5, where I have slashed 3 crops in a row, shows some vigour with oats, barley and wheat in the area. And now that the pigs are the size where they need to meet their maker, they will not be working on that last half-acre anytime soon. September, October, November is spring here in the Southern Hemisphere. And it will see the arrival of a couple more piglets, and the cycle will continue on that back half-acre. I'm also making as much compost as I can to spread over this half-acre, but there are limits to the available organic matter as ever. In the meantime, I'm also knocking up a mobile duck house so that the quackers can start their manuring process on the last half-acre, and that may be enough. As it turns out, growing food is a constant feedback loop from idea to test to information gathered to altered plans. Or as Bear Grylls put it so much more succinctly, adapt, improvise and overcome. This whole pig, no pig situation reminds me of John Seymour's statement along these sorts of lines. It's not a direct quote. The quickest way to make compost is to put it through an animal. 24 hours and you have the best plant food in the world. The focus will be getting manures, compost onto gardens, building soil fertility, and allowing the specialists, the mycorrhizal fungi, to do the work for me and for free. In the garden, no dig becomes even more important in the knowledge of that these fungi are better than either human-created nutrients or the plant's roots at collecting the nutrients and delivering them to the roots and the rest of the plant. And the bonus is, when we're not digging, is that we get to decarbonise the air and recarbonise the soil. So thank you all for listening, and I'll be back next week.